Good day, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Strategy International podcast. This is the podcast produced for Strategy International, a global think tank that brings together great minds from all over the world that discuss, analyze, and collaborate on issues of global interest, such as international politics and policy, strategy, defense, economy, the environment, and much, much more. We have another great guest today with us, who is going to, I believe, bring a lot of insight to all you listeners and viewers. We're here with Dr. Thrasyvoulos Marketos. He is a scientific researcher and visiting lecturer of Eurasian Geopolitics and Geostrategy, Energy, at the School of Economics of the University of the Peloponnese. He's a scientific associate and member of the Energy-Geopolitics Committee of the Institution of Energy in Southeast Europe. And he's a research associate and teacher of Eurasian Geopolitical Energy at the Institute of Continuing Education at the Hellenic Ministry of National Defense. Dr. Marketos, thank you so much for accepting our invitation to come on the podcast.
Thank you for the invitation.
We appreciate it, and no doubt I'm looking forward to having this conversation with you, because I was looking in your bio and I saw that at some point you were working at the Greek Foreign Affairs Ministry. And immediately I thought, this is very interesting because, and this is not just me, but many analysts that have been following the developments in the East Mediterranean region, so not specifically just Greece, but in general what's happening in that region, are particularly impressed, especially during the last mandate in this Greek government, with all the developments around Greece's foreign affairs and this leadership position that Greece has tried to assert in that region. Is this something that you've noticed as well with the experience that you have?
Yes, indeed. You know, the financial crisis and all the ordeal that Greece has been through all through the 2010s and until I suppose the 2021, we had in Greece to reconsider our inception about foreign policy, and we were under big stress, as you may know, because of Turkey's and President Erdogan consecutive provocations and assaults against Greece and its sovereign rights in both in the Aegean Sea and in the Eastern Mediterranean. So Greece, I believe, quite wisely, during the 2010s, had to find out a way to overcome this pressure coming from our eastern neighbor. And she has found out a common interest and finally collaboration in both economic and strategic matters with Israel, of course, Cyprus, and then with Egypt, that of the 2016 attempted coup in Turkey, because then Turkey was AKP party, President Erdogan's AKP party had been allied with the extreme nationalists in Turkey, that for all the aggression was found out its heights, and we came to the 2020 when Turkey has been refusing to accept its exclusion from the tripartite synergies that, as I mentioned before, Greece has made with Israel, Egypt, Cyprus, and several other countries in our Middle Eastern neighborhood. And these synergies, I know that have been extended to many countries in the Gulf, the Persian Gulf, mainly UAE and Saudi Arabia has been collaborating, thus helping Greece to cope with the Turkish aggression. And finally, it came out that by 2021, when Greece found itself before a hybrid attack by Turkey, when Erdogan has been instrumentalizing poor refugees coming from the Evros mainland border between Greece and Turkey, pushing them to enter Greece. Of course, the Greek government at the time has reacted drastically, and the whole issue came up to the European and international institutions, and a lot of countries of our partners in the European Union came about helping us to cope with the situation. I say this because the Turkish aggression and unlawful insults made even against the Greek Prime Minister were not accepted by the Greek government. The Greek government was not intimidated by these assaults, and it is quite interesting to see that while by August and September 2020, when Turkey sent several of its military navy ships in the Eastern Mediterranean and the Aegean Sea, several Gulf states, under the right of the synergies I mentioned before, came along and along with Greece and Cyprus, UAE, Saudi Arabia, Egypt, had altogether drills in the Eastern Mediterranean, which of course have shown to Turkey that Greece is not defenseless, and that of course Greece can activate other mechanisms against these provocative actions. I have to mention here that while the Greek, while these provocations were happening, or even some time before, Greece has concluded two security pacts with France, one that is including a defense clause, and another one with the US that is prolonging the two parties' collaboration in the military field. This whole issue, of course, have shown that first of all, Greece is not willing to give up its rights, and it is not going to be enforced into a coercive, let's say, diplomatic discussion for its own international law attributed rights. And secondly, that US and of course France is including the Eastern Mediterranean in their strategic planning, finding out the importance of the Eastern Mediterranean Sea in the new strategic picture of the world. And this has had, I believe, certain impact on Turkey. Although we have seen that until very recently, until maybe April this year, Turkey has been employing quite a lot provocative accusations against Greece's initiatives.
We're going to get to there's a lot of moving parts in everything that you said, and it's great that you've set the stage, because there's a lot of interesting challenges happening in that region. The interesting thing for me, especially in the last really in the last mandate, and the idea here isn't to get at all into any partisanship, but the most recent government in Greece has made steps that seem as though Greece has elevated from whatever status it had in the past. And like you very rightly mentioned, they were a country afflicted by an economic crisis. Perhaps the circumstances were different in the early 2000s or in the mid around 2008, 2009. Perhaps the climate is much better now. It just seems that Greece has stepped up and has assumed this role in that region that it rightfully deserves. With everything happening in Europe, and we're going to get to talk to a little bit about the energy strategy, because you're an expert in energy geopolitics. But I'm curious just to pick your brain a little bit in how things have developed, because we weren't used to seeing Greece taking these sort of leadership positions in that region. And of course, we know as things progress and as the political developments progress in that region, Greece's position has always had this very crucial element in that it links the Southeast Europe as a continent with Asia, the Middle East, and of course, Northeast Africa. Greece has played that role spectacularly well in the last government's mandate. You didn't mention this, but there were also certain agreements that were finally resolved with the economic zones with Italy and with Egypt. And all these felt like they were all stepping stones to a greater plan, which is to create fruitful relations in that region that link these regions into Europe. And I think it's a leadership role that Greece has asserted, and it hasn't gone unnoticed. I don't know how you see that happening, and if ever, in your experience, also having worked in the foreign affairs ministry, if ever you saw this presence that Greece has had and this important role that it's decided to take on in previous years, or at least in Greece's recent history.
Well, George, I have to make a remark here, because for quite many decades, Greek foreign ministry has been using a policy that was in a kind of thing of appeasing Turkey's aggression towards Greece's sovereign rights in the Aegean, and later on even in the Eastern Mediterranean, having even come up to sign with Tripoli government in Libya, and totally unlawful and totally illogic according to international law and international treaties connecting and binding both Greece and Turkey. So Erdogan AKP government has signed with the Tripoli government in Libya an EEZ exclusive economic zone delimitation treaty about the Eastern Mediterranean with Libya, which it is totally irrational that it may, as a country, have common EEZ zone in the Eastern Mediterranean with Turkey. Why? Because taking this treaty as a matter of discussion, we have to eliminate the rights of according to international law, of the Greek islands of the Dodecanese, even Crete. So this is totally unacceptable. Of course, Greece has reacted. It has concluded an EZ delimitation with Egypt that, of course, denies the right to Turkey to draft an EZ delimitation treaty with the Tripoli government. And of course, another EZ delimitation treaty with Italy. So Greece wanted to show to everybody, especially Turkey, that she's applying the international law derogations, and she's intended to defend its rights. Here, let me also talk about the collaboration, strategic collaboration that binds some years already Turkey with Italy, because we know very well the interests of Italy in Libya, and how any energy company, the Italian company, is involved in, especially in the Western energy, Libya's deposits. So Italy is collaborating with Turkey so as to perform and work on a strategic inter-Mediterranean connection strategy. Aegean Sea Turkey's ports with the Taranto port of Italy, connecting this with the Tunisian ports, and then by using the North African mainland, another connection to Algeria, for that to come up to the Sahel and transport both goods and energy between Turkey and Italy and North Africa in the energy and trade sectors. Greece, for itself, has concluded, as I mentioned before, many accords with its Eastern Mediterranean and Levantine neighbors, especially with Israel and Egypt. Therefore, she has concluded to, and is slowly and silently building a strategic connection that crosses the Mediterranean and connects the Piraeus port with Haifa port of Israel, all through then from Jordan, Saudi Arabia, coming to the United Arab Emirates, and because of the Abraham Accords between United Arab Emirates and India, we can configure, and we are going to find out very soon, I believe, a trans-Mediterranean connection between Western Indian Ocean, the Gulf, and the Eastern Mediterranean Sea to Greece, Europe, Europe's mainland, and from there to the Balkans and Central and Eastern Europe. This is a connection that is having an immense repercussion in the global trade and energy picture that we know up to now. And of course, it is for the well-being of both Indian party and Arab party as well. Why? Because India has an immense variety of foodstuff that can provide to Arab Gulf states, and thus assure their food sustainability and safeguard their human well-being protection. Also, this strategy is for the interest of course, Israel, no doubt, because of the whole spectrum of accords that has concluded, especially with the United Arab Emirates, and of course for the interest of EU. Why? Because after the outbreak of the Ukraine war, as everybody knows, the EU is trying to find energy solutions other than to overcome its dependence on Russian energy, mainly natural gas. So, except the LNG provision coming from all around the world and US to EU ports providing natural gas, liquefied natural gas, we can configure easily connecting energy potential of Eastern Mediterranean, that is of Cyprus, Israel, and Egypt, with the potential of the Gulf states, especially United Arab Emirates, and the goods transport coming from India. This is, as everybody understands, for the interest of India itself, because it's going to be connected in a strategic and way in energy and trade matters with the West, the European Union, that is, Brussels are seeking to find extra-regional connections regarding trade. And so, of course, this is going to be in the detriment of Turkey's strategies, both regarding the Eastern Mediterranean and Libya, Italy, as I mentioned before, but also regarding its plans to collaborate with China, so as to, through its fellow Turkic states of Central Asia, create a corridor that is named Middle Corridor, linking its territory with Caucasus, Central Asia, and China. That is the reason for this strategy is to overcome, regarding trade affairs, the difficulties that the Northern Corridor connecting China with Russia and Europe is having certain difficulties because of the Ukraine war and the sanctions imposed to Russia by the West. And this brings us to our subject in the Eastern Mediterranean, and the necessity that Europe finds out finally that the energy potential of the Eastern Mediterranean belonging to two countries that has built bonds of trust and cooperation, that is Israel and Egypt, this energy can alleviate its dependence both on Russian natural gas and LNG transfers coming up to its ports, not necessarily under the best economic solutions.
It's good that you're opening the door, because like I said, I wanted to get into the energy geopolitics and how important that region is, specifically with with the advent of the war in between Russia and Ukraine and all the repercussions it has had, specifically in energy sufficiency and dependency in Europe. I just want to just very quickly invite everyone to visit strategyinternational.org. There is a plethora of content on the website, specifically in this region and in those topics as well. So for further information and reading material, visit strategyinternational.org. Getting back to the energy, Dr. Marketos, because you mentioned very rightly that this conflict made Europe realize that additional sources of energy are necessary, and Greece once again can play that pivotal role through that corridor, the energy corridor that it has been for years now trying to implement with Cyprus and Israel, and like you very rightly mentioned, the potential of opening that partnership with other countries in the Arab Gulf region. How feasible do you think this is going to be? We've been hearing talks of the pipeline for a number of years now. How is it being developed? And is Greece going to see the completion of this project anytime soon?
These projects are having the blessing, first of all, of the US government. Why? Because it's under procedure that is alienating in a way, partially, from the Middle East and its everlasting problems and inter-Arab conflicts, to see what is about to do with the emergence of China in the global in the global strategic map. And US is actually trying to make a connection between its neighbor, its NATO, allies in Europe, and the strategic arena between US and its partners in Europe, that is the NATO framework, and the Indo-Pacific strategic situation that is opening up through US strategic collaboration with Australia, Japan, and New Zealand, and of course, India. Why do I mention this? Because the West is progressively coming up to the solution, to the conclusion that the strategic theaters of Euro-Atlantic, NATO, and Indo-Pacific can and should come up to one. That is the connection of the Euro-Atlantic and the Indo-Pacific. In this framework, according to my thoughts, I believe US is collaborating with France and its interests in the Eastern Mediterranean, the Red Sea, and the Western Indian Ocean, French possessions and territories, so as to make this binding of the two strategic theaters. And is Washington is actually come up with a strategic plan that is named I2U2, that is India, Israel, 2, United States, United Arab Emirates, 2. So under this scheme, the connection between the two strategic theaters of the Atlantic Alliance and the Indo-Pacific interests of US and NATO, so as to confront China's policy in the southeastern Asia, and it's not so amicable relation to India. This connection can be a viable strategy.
Absolutely right, and I agree with you. However, we are seeing an increased presence from China into the Middle East. With we saw recently a deal they struck between Saudi Arabia and Iran, and we've been seeing sort of the U.S. kind of leaving the area, while the Chinese government has tried to increase its presence much more on an economic level than ever before. But to get back to the energy, because this isn't new, obviously. The fact that Greece wants to have that pivotal role in and leadership in creating this energy dependency for Europe through this deal. We're also, and you mentioned it earlier, we're also seeing how Turkey has been trying to assert its leadership in the Mediterranean. And we're talking about, we don't have to get into the details here, but there's this blue homeland plan where Turkey has been trying to assert its presence and its hegemony, if you want, in the Mediterranean, trying to link that, like you rightfully said, with the northern corridor, and that links it all the way to China. So the dynamics right now in the last couple of years are really heightened in that region. How do you see, what kind of steps do you think need to be taken to de-escalate these tensions and to promote a stability in the trans-Mediterranean region, considering all these challenges that you've mentioned?
First of all, dear George, I have to also explain that Greece is making up many accords, energy accords with Egypt. Why? Because naturally the Eastern Mediterranean deposit potential has, instead of the East Med project, can follow in liquefaction procedure the Egypt strategic infrastructure, and then by ship come to Europe as a liquefied natural gas. So Greece is having another trans-Mediterranean connection that is reminding us that European Union is already several years financing the energy interconnection between both Africa's shore, that is Egypt shore, with Europe's mainland, And also Israel potential in electricity, especially from renewable sources, reaching European Union. In this matter, I have to mention the Europe-Asia and Euro-Africa interconnection, electric interconnection that is underway and is going to be used in some months, especially the one with Israel, connecting Israel, Cyprus, and Greece. And of course, we are configuring a situation that is totally not excluding, but having Turkey out of the game. Why? Because Turkey is proposing Mavimatan strategy in the Eastern Mediterranean, that is our blue homeland, that is totally against international law provisions, and is neglecting all Greece's and Cyprus rights under the international law. Egypt is and Israel are collaborating with Cyprus and Greece so as to overcome this peculiar situation. And despite all the openness that Turkey is showing up to Israel and Egypt, and of course UAE and Saudi Arabia recently, we see that Israel and UAE and Egypt are somewhat reluctant, because nobody really wants in the Eastern Mediterranean and the Levantine region a Turkish hegemony. We have all lived under the Ottoman Empire's hegemony and Turkish rule here. And we know that Turkey is inclined to be cooperative, but before all, she wants to promote a strategy that she has come up with, and it's named Third Pole, that is a country that's be in between Europe and China, and at the same time refusing to accept the post-World War II US-sponsored world order. This intends to reverse the structure of the UN Security Council. And this is a strategy that Turkey is applying, so that to show to the whole countries of the globe that is a country that is not part either of the West or the East. so that for herself can provide all the goods and leave to the others, providing her with what she intends to do with that.
What kind of repercussions do you think can come out of this situation, where on one hand you have countries that are trying to broker an energy deal legally, respecting each other's exclusive economic zones, as signing different accords that you've mentioned that are following the United Nations conventions, legal conventions, versus Turkey's plan to just flat out assert itself as the excuse me, as the power in East Mediterranean through these deals that, quite frankly, make absolutely no sense.
Turkey has a lot of self-confidence that has been built because of its economic boom dating in the late 2010s, and its consecutive growth, the consecutive growth that has been also accompanied by the importance that it has given to the to its own manufacturing of arms and ships, so that to be able to come up with deals and to a foreign policy that is totally as a business business project, not a diplomatic discourse, but a totally business issue that is complementarizing all parties' intentions, and trying to find out a way of its own, not according to its signing to NATO or other treaties, but as a business deal.
And what kind of? I'm just going back to my question, because we have two simultaneous actions being taken in that same region. One which is obviously perceived as following the rules and regulations, and one that isn't. Given the historic attitude and aggression that we've seen from Turkey in that region, is there any dangerous path that we're headed to? What kind of repercussions are we expecting? Or down the line, everyone is just going to play by the rules and figure out a way where tensions could be calm and everyone could sort of become a partner in that deal?
George, I didn't really avoid to your question. For me, it's out of question for liberal democracies to accept Turkey's authoritarian path that is leading Erdogan and new Turkish government closer to the authoritarian rule applied by either Putin in Russia or Xi in China. So it's out of question that we can, liberal democracies, real democracies, we can accept this division. In the West, we hope that every single person can have rights, democratic rights. This is our tradition. It is our this concerns our fundamentals of Western civilization. In that case, Turkey wants it all, and it gives nothing. That is the point, as to me.
It's going to be interesting because both countries, well, one just came out of an election, and the other country, Greece specifically, is in a recall election. And it's going to be interesting to see how things evolve in the coming years. I don't want to take up too much of your time, Dr. Marketos. You've been very generous with your time, and I want to thank you for coming on the podcast and sharing all that knowledge that you have with all the viewers and listeners. Where can people follow the work that you do and the interesting publications that you put out?
I have published 4 books, one in Greek and 3 in English, and several of my insight is in LinkedIn posts. Also, I presume that people can come up to my Twitter messages. That's it. I'm working in Greece, and of course collaborating with some institutions in France and Cyprus, hoping to show people what is the truth about Greek-Turkish relationship, and that is, of course, nothing to do has nothing to do with allies relationship, and I'm trying to overcome the plethora of the Turkish analysts postings all over the internet that we Greek writers and analysts have difficulty to as a measure of number to overcome.
We'll be sure to link those in the description for anyone interested. And again, let me remind everyone that you can visit Strategy International at strategyinternational.org for all information on the great work that is being done over there. Dr. Marketos, thank you so much once more for coming on. Hopefully we can have this discussion again very soon.
Thank you very much, George. Wish you all the best.
Thank you.
And to our viewers, of course.
Take care.